I would like you to elaborate upon this hatred for Paul George.
Does Paul George push P, Ryan? Is Paul George pushing P?
Paul George wouldn't know how to push P if it hit him in the mouth. I mean, he's just not built like that, honestly. Hey, everybody listening into the podcast. This is Bros in the Berg with myself, Ryan Doyle. We have Connor Doyle and our executive producer.
Oh, what's up, man?
And Robbie Bergstone on the other end in Indianapolis.
That is my title, official gambling.
Just like gambling expert? Yeah.
And NHL expert, too.
Yeah.
Let's make sure that's stated.
Hockey's your favorite sport.
Yeah,
he definitely doesn't take a crash course 30 seconds before each podcast episode to find the hot news in hockey for the day.
Ryan definitely didn't have to look up the standings for the NHL currently.
Ryan, could you name 5 hockey teams before like 5 minutes ago?
What, 5? Just 5 hockey teams?
Yeah, 5.
Oh, yeah, easily.
I don't know about that.
Preds.
Okay.
Flyers.
Yeah.
The Stars.
Yeah.
Jersey Devils, Florida Panthers.
There we go. Yeah, he's got
Leaves, Kings. I'm cracked. Honestly,
he's looking at a screen, like, we'll let it slide.
Yeah.
I can see him reading it.
No chance we're doing that.
And we just witnessed the end of the Packers 49ers game. That was a hell of a game.
Yeah.
Actually, why I don't know why people are actually in attendance for the game when the wind chill is literally 0 degrees Fahrenheit.
Yeah. That was the first half it wasn't snowing, right? It just started in the second half.
Yeah, the snowing was the second half, and like I feel like it being that cold and it not snowing is miserable. Once the snow starts, I feel like that's a little more fun.
Yeah,
like everyone loves some snow.
Yeah, but I mean, I feel like that's even more insulting because the San Francisco team came to Lambeau Field while it's snowing and beat you to go into the NFC Championship.
Oh, okay, let's clarify. San Francisco team is a stretch. The San Francisco 49ers defense and special teams went into Lambeau and beat Aaron Rodgers.
Mm-hmm.
Jimmy G looks horrendous. I mean, just straight up.
Yeah.
Throwing ducks all night.
Rodgers' last drive was terrible. He went 3 and out. That pass to Devontae, which was like a 40-yard bomb, was pointless. Like, I don't know why he threw that ball.
So I think first, we need a first hot take for the podcast. And mine is that Aaron Rodgers is washed. And not be in the greatest quarterback of all time conversation. I think that's just.
Is he in the GOAT conversation? I missed that memo.
I mean, I think Brady's taken and run with it.
Well, obviously, but like, there's a tier below Brady, but I think everyone with the gourd agrees that Brady is the number 1 overall best player in NFL all time at this point.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like there's a while there that everyone's like, well, Rodgers is the more talented quarterback, just hasn't had the help or hasn't had this or hasn't had that. And now you're to the point where he's 0-4 against the 49ers in the playoffs, and none of those 49er teams won a Super Bowl. Not a single one did.
Yeah,
so,
I mean, it's almost to this point. I think you asked the question: is Rodgers ever going to win another Super Bowl? And I think no. I don't think Rodgers is ever going to win another Super Bowl. If he can't win with it, I think this is the best team that he's going to get for the rest of his career.
Yeah, I think you're getting to the point where you start questioning his age. I don't know how many more years he has.
People said that about Brady, though.
Yeah, but he's the only one. I mean,
Brady's the exception to the rule, not the rule.
True.
That's,
yeah. You had like Favre, right? He retired like twice.
Yeah, true.
Went to the Jets, the Vikings, so he's also up there. But
do we think this is Rodgers' last game in Green Bay? Is he actually going to leave this offseason?
I could not tell you. I really have no idea.
If I was betting last summer, I would have said he was gone last summer.
Yeah.
So
didn't he express interest in like Pittsburgh?
I know it's Denver.
Like, I don't think that actually had any substance. It was in a preseason game where Tomlin and Rodgers were like laughing at each other and making jokes and whatnot, and people are like, "Oh, he's going to Pittsburgh," kind of thing.
Yeah,
I don't think that had any sustenance.
Mm-hmm.
So on the flip side, I feel like you're going into this game wondering, is Jimmy G really the quarterback for the future for the 49ers? And he didn't have a great game.
Yeah,
but the man is winning playoff games. He's been to a Super Bowl. He just went into Lambeau, beat Aaron Rodgers. Granted, he didn't really do anything to win that game. But, I mean, if you're the 49ers, what do you do with the Jimmy G?
I mean, I think you said it though. It was kind of the defense and it's special. I mean, because the commentator said at the end of the game, like the reason that Green Bay lost was because of their special teams. And I don't necessarily agree with the fact that it was Green Bay special teams play it was their fault. I think it was just that the 49ers special teams was that good.
I don't know if you give up 2 blocks in the game, usually you didn't prepare right. I mean that's true. A block, sure, but 2 blocks in a game is pretty rough.
Yeah,
most teams don't give up 2 blocks on like a season. Yeah, those are pretty uncommon in the NFL.
I mean, Crosby finally acquired a grip though. He like, do you remember that game earlier in the season against the Bengals?
He had games.
Yeah,
bro.
true.
This was his worst season in his career by far.
Yeah.
No, the Bengals one was the best though. That was just who doesn't want to win this game.
It was 5 missed kicks in a row.
Yeah.
Something like that. Combined extra points and field goals. It was absolutely insane. I mean, I'm looking at ESPN right now. At one point, Green Bay had an 89% chance to win this game.
Yeah. I mean, I kept saying to myself, I'm like, this is Green Bay's game to lose. This isn't San Francisco's game to win. This is Green Bay's game to lose.
It felt like if Rodgers got one more touchdown, it was over. That there's no way the Niners were scoring 2 touchdowns. So if you went up 14, the game was over, but they just could never get it going in the second half.
Watching the game, it almost felt like the Niners were like a unit, and it felt like specifically because their defense, I think, for the Packers was fine, but specifically their offense, I felt like it was an offense of individuals almost. Like the way that, because, first of all, Devontae Adams is ridiculously good. Like, it's not even funny how good he is.
Free Devontae.
Bro, he, like, some of the catches he was making were ridiculous. And, like, I mean, you can say the same thing. Kittle had that one-handed, like, where he slid his knee down in the first half, which was ridiculous.
He had one, too. I mean, he, like, ran a slant route and just juked some, I don't know, from the backer or a safety, just absolutely out of his cleats. I mean, it was awful.
Rodgers was 20 for 29 in the game. Of those 29 throws, 21 of those were either to Aaron Jones or Devontae Adams.
That's ridiculous.
It was a two-man throwing game. And on the flip side, you had San Francisco, Brandon Ayuk, which is top 5 round wide receiver, was targeted once the entire game.
Yeah.
With no catches. I mean, he's been the biggest disappointment out of San Fran this year.
That was the all year for Ayuk, though. He would like go through periods like, all right, he's getting 5 or 6 a game. Like he's kind of like getting those targets back up. And then all of a sudden it's like, 2 games where he combines for 1 target between the 2 games.
I just don't know how you, like, obviously you have someone who's pretty talented, but you just write him out of the game plan completely.
They've done it all season. Yeah.
I know. I guess it's worked.
I mean, they're in the NFC Championship, so you can't really say much about it.
I was going to go what you were talking about, Connor, the Niners were one unit and the Packers were just kind of out there. I feel like that happens with a lot of Rodgers teams. Like a lot of Rodgers teams like almost look like they don't want to be there when it comes playoff time.
Yeah.
Like it's like, we got this far, we got this 1 seed, like we deserve to win this game, but we're not going to go out and do anything to actually win this game.
Which is so funny because the excuse for that was it was like a Mike McCarthy culture, right? And then you have like the house change and you're still getting the same results.
Yeah.
I don't know how long has that coach been there? I forget his name.
Like been there 2 or 3 years?
2 or 3 years, yeah. I can't remember how many exactly.
I mean, it's like you can't fire the man for going 13-4.
No.
And I think Matt LaFleur is a lot better coach than Mike McCarthy is.
Yeah. As a Cowboys, longtime suffering Cowboys fan, I can confirm.
You would die for Matt LaFleur as your coach right now.
Yes. For listeners at home, we're all in eternal pain because we're Dallas Cowboys fan. Well, Robbie's more of a Panthers fan, but semi Dallas Cowboys fan.
Yeah, I've been a Cowboys fan this year just so I could cheer with my friends because the Panthers. We had that glorious 3-0 start, and then it just really all went downhill from there. But that was fun while it lasted.
Yeah. I guess we can kind of shift to the earlier game today. I mean, I didn't get a chance to watch it, but I know Robbie, you got a chance to check out the Bengals game, and they're moving on. That was 2 game-winning field goals today, correct?
That kicker for the Bengals is special.
McPherson is cold, dude.
He's a rookie. Didn't miss a kick on the road the entire year.
That's nuts. I didn't know that. That's actually nuts.
Yeah, I think he was talking to Burrow before when there was a timeout call before he went on the field.
Yeah.
And he said, get ready for the AFC Championship game as a rookie, and then goes out and drills that kick.
There was an interview afterwards where a reporter was interviewing Burrow, and Burrow said he's like, I was walking on the field before he even kicked the ball because because of that conversation he was so confident in it. But he's proven it throughout the year. He's incredible.
As much as I want to hate Joe Burrow too, you can't not like Joe Burrow.
You can't.
He just goes out there and he plays football, and that is
You know what I want? You know what I want the Super Bowl matchup to be? I want it to be the Bucs and the Bengals.
Niners.
No, I want the Bucs and the Bengals. Like legit, I want the Bengals to go to the Super Bowl.
I'd like to see Joe Burrow and Mahomes in the AFC Championship too.
Here's my take. In the next 5 years, the Bengals make a Super Bowl. That's my take.
I was telling someone earlier, the Bengals remind me a lot of the Hawks from last year in the NBA, where it's a young team that everyone knows is talented and arrived a little ahead of schedule. Like, I don't think everyone knew the Bengals would be better this year, but no one expected them to make the AFC Championship, just like the Hawks last year making the East Conference Finals. Yeah. Obviously, they're not having a great year right now, but I mean, same kind of deal.
No, they are not.
Same kind of deal where it's a team a little bit ahead of schedule getting to a game of that magnitude.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, great for the Bengals going into a hostile environment and winning that game. But overall, for all the NFL games today, you had bad quarterback play overall.
Yeah.
Garoppolo, not good. Obviously, weather conditions are a big thing. But Tannehill, 15 for 24 with 3 picks at home.
Abysmal. Yeah,
I mean, he's not been good all year.
He had 2 picks that were tips, but he didn't play well outside of that. He had a couple bombs to A.J. Brown. Which, I mean, talking about good wide receivers, A.J. Brown and Jamar Chase were dueling today. It wasn't a quarterback duel. It was Jamar Chase versus A.J. Brown for most of the game.
Receiver stars showed up in both games. They played well.
I don't think Debo handled that cold weather very well. He hit the turf one time. I think it was a little harder than he expected, and he came up hobbling a little bit.
At the end of the game, Debo hobbled off the field on one leg, and then so did Kittle. Yeah. Kittle started limping off the field, and I was like, I don't think they're seriously injured, but imagine a Niners team NFC Championship without Kittle or Debo. Like, what does that team do? What do you do with that?
Nothing.
Nothing.
Yeah, you lose.
You can't win that game.
Yeah, you lose. Yeah, exactly.
I mean, Titans 12-5 on the year, first round. They exceeded expectations for sure.
Were they a 12-5 team?
They don't win a Super Bowl with Ryan Tannehill.
No.
Derrick Henry definitely was not fully healthy. Like he
had 5 screws in his foot.
Yeah. Right, he had a metal plate still in his foot.
Yes, so
there's no metal plate sitting in his foot.
Yeah, he got 20 carries. Averaged over 3 yards a carry, which I think is as best as you can ask for when he hasn't had any real game.
You can tell he's just missing that explosiveness. It isn't surprising, but you could see it because Hilliard had a couple of those big runs where you saw him busted open, and it's like for a minute you're like, "Is that Derrick Henry?" It's like, no, it's not.
Healthy Henry Titans win this game.
That's so hard. Hypothetical. I mean, you're probably right just because of how elite Derrick Henry is. Like you said, though, I mean, the Bengals have so much young talent that it's like I could definitely see that theory of making a Super Bowl in 5 years. Because when you have,
I think that's a foregone conclusion. They make Super Bowl in 5 years.
In defense of the Titans, I saw some takes that they're like one of the worst number 1 seeds ever. Whatever.
I don't think that's accurate.
They beat the Bills and the Chiefs this year. Like they beat the 2 teams seated directly behind them.
They also lost to the Jets at home. I mean, like they
this is true.
No, they lost at the Jets. Excuse me.
Yeah.
Incorrect information.
They had like the most players activated their active roster of any team in the NFL this year and made the number 1 seed. I mean, they're a good team. I think they need to get healthier. I think they need to figure out the whole Ryan Tannehill situation. But there's a lot of good things going on in Tennessee, I think.
I mean, like you just said, it was injuries. I mean, A.J. Brown is out every other week. Julio Jones has been out for so long. Yeah, and Henry didn't obviously Henry's been out since early season, so it's like, what is as much as we want to pin it all on Tannehill, it's almost like, what did he have to work with?
They were beneficiaries of a weak division, right? You're playing against Indy, who came on strong, carried physically by Jonathan Taylor.
Yeah.
And then Houston and Jacksonville combined for 7 wins. Same thing with the Cowboys in the NFC East. They go 6-0 in the division, and then 6-5 against everybody else.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's 12-5, were they the weakest 1 seed of all time? No, but they were definitely a weak 1 seed because they only get that 1 seed because of how bad the Chiefs and the Bills struggled earlier in the season.
And it's a cliche to say, trial by fire, where you have to play these good teams, be ready for when you play good teams in postseason tournaments or whatever else. But I mean, it really does show up. You got to think about Gonzaga for the last couple of years has gone out of conference and played really tough games and been a lot better in the tourney than they were 10 years ago when they waltzed through the West Coast Conference, not play a soul, and then get rocked in the second round or Sweet 16.
Yeah.
I mean, you really do have to play those games against good teams if you're going to make any noise going forward.
Yep. And we can look ahead to tomorrow's game. Obviously, we got the the Bills and the Chiefs, and then what is the other game? I keep forgetting.
Bucs Rams.
Thank you. The Bucs and the Rams. What are and here's my hot take. Here's my hot take of the playoffs so far. I have the Chiefs beating the Bills by double digits.
Ooh.
And I have so much confidence about that. I still don't think that Bills team is on the level with the Chiefs.
I mean, it is a hell of a time to go into Arrowhead, for sure. The Chiefs are favored by 1.5 at home. With an over/under of 54.
Yeah, so the only reason I disagree with you, Connor, is the Bills are coming in as probably one of the most confident teams right now. I mean, the Chiefs played well last week, but like the Bills beat the Patriots at home where it wasn't even close.
Yeah,
they closed out the season really well, and they still remember last year's AFC conference or championship game. I mean, I feel like they've shown it all week of Diggs sitting there, watching the celebration. Like they're gonna be out for blood for sure. I think the Chiefs win the game, but I do think I think it's gonna be an absolute shootout between Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen.
Absolutely.
I fully
agree.
I
think 54 points is covered for sure.
Yeah.
And the Bills ended the season on a 4-game win streak. They beat the Patriots, like you mentioned, but they also beat some other teams that were struggling, like the Panthers, the Falcons, and the Jets. So it's not like they're playing the biggest competition. But I mean, we will definitely see come tomorrow. I think it'll be definitely a little bit more of an exciting game than the Bucs Rams. The Rams have really struggled against good teams this year. I mean, the couple times they played the Cardinals, they did not look good. Stafford has made a lot of mistakes. Henderson, I don't know if he's back.
Akers looks good though. Akers looked really good.
Akers looks good. Michelle looks good.
Sony Michel's been really good.
I just think it's a classic Tom Brady game. I think he throws for 3 touchdowns at home, and they win by at least a touchdown in Tampa Bay.
I'm curious to see how the Bucs offensive line does because they got banged up last week against the Eagles. And that Rams front with Von Miller and Aaron Donald and all those guys look like they came together last week. Like you felt like you're sitting there. Well, I mean, obviously the Cardinals played awful, and I think we're not a very good team. We're probably the worst of the playoff teams, except maybe the Eagles. Yeah. But I mean, they were just tearing up, and it was one of those things you're watching it happen. You're like, how do you block those guys? How do you block Von Miller and Aaron Donald at the same time?
Yeah,
I mean they can rush 4, and they're going to get to your quarterback more times than they're not. So you're dropping so many guys in coverage. I mean, it is Tom Brady. I mean, it is the greatest quarterback of all time, but it's a tough ask, especially for an offensive line that got pretty banged up last week.
Yeah. I mean, I think you have to acknowledge that. I mean, obviously that Tom Brady, while he is the greatest quarterback of all time, he can't move. I mean, the only quarterback he's more mobile than in the NFL is Ben Roethlisberger. I mean, realistically. So, I mean, obviously with Aaron Donald and Von Miller coming at you, that's a little bit of an issue. But for him, I think I agree with Ryan. I think the Bucs are gonna clean up easy with the Rams. Does Brady go for 8 this year? I feel like that's the big question.
I think the real question is, so let's say, the Bucs win tomorrow and they play the Niners in the NFC Championship game. Does that game decide the most handsome quarterback in the NFL?
That right there is a
question. It comes down to those 2 guys. I think whoever wins gets the title for the time being.
I mean, Jimmy G with the beard is just wow.
Yeah.
Tom Brady's never tried the facial hair. I mean, I think he's a clean man.
Sure, he's tried it before.
Has he? When?
I think so. I could be correct. I was reading more about the Bucs, Panthers. I know Panthers, Bucs, Rams. I know the Bucs get Leonard back too.
I didn't know that.
Lenny Fournette is back.
Fournette I believe, is coming back. And these 2 teams met week 3 with the Rams coming out on top, 34-24.
The Rams beat up on them. That was the kind of like when the Bucs started off slow. I mean, I feel like a lot of Brady teams do.
Yeah.
I don't think they started off 6-1.
They did.
Yeah, they started off 6-1.
I think Fournette's one of the most unique players I've ever seen because he was one of those guys that obviously I think people were listing him as one of the top college running backs they'd ever seen, and then he was at Jacksonville at the early start of his career, correct? His NFL career, and so he kind of took a massive dip and then went to Tampa Bay. And then was splitting carries with Rojo, and obviously has emerged as a very, very good running back this year. And I don't know about
Arians figured out that Ronald Jones is not the guy that should be splitting carries.
But I mean, I don't know if I've ever seen a guy who was regarded as one of the top talents of all time in college, and then took a massive dip and then came back up again. Because I feel like those guys always keep going down. So Fournette's one of the only rebound.
Massive dip. I mean, he had 2 1,000-yard rushing seasons with the Jaguars.
when I say massive dip, I mean like people were expecting him to be as good as he was in college.
I mean, 2020, he only had 367 yards. He's in that timeshare with Rojo. He didn't get that many touches.
Yeah, that wasn't his fault. Yeah,
but
he struggled with injuries for a little bit too, didn't he?
I think he did. Yeah,
like nagging injuries. Yeah.
It's funny to think about him and Geis back to back too, because he left LSU and Geis came in, and Geis was also a great running back at LSU, and it looked like both of them were going to take the league by storm. And I don't think is Geis in the league anymore.
I don't think so.
Yeah, Connor, I think the take with Fournette struggling in his early career is not great. Like Robbie said, he had 2 1,000-yard seasons, and then the season he didn't, he was hurt. He played half the games.
Yeah.
Like he was averaging 4 yards a carry.
Struggling was the wrong word. Maybe underwhelming.
Well, and you got to think about who he was playing with on offense, right? They're going to stack the box. You're not going to be able to do anything when you have absolutely no weapons.
Yeah, I agree.
So,
but I do think Fournette is one of the. I mean, there's so many important offensive players on the Bucs. It's almost hard to say that he's one of the most important ones. But I feel like him and Gronk are what drives that offense. I mean, Mike Evans is great. Chris Godwin's great. Antonio Brown's a head case. But I mean, they have a lot of weapons, but Fournette opens up so many things for them underneath and running the ball that I feel like he really does help drive that offense, and having him back will make them look a little better than they have been.
I agree. And I think, like Ryan said, Arians found a way to kind of split it as opposed to just being a pass heavy. I mean, and I don't, to be completely honest, I don't think Brady's going to feel the lack of Godwin at all, just because he's Tom Brady. Like, he's won Super Bowls with way worse receiving cores.
Oh, yeah.
I don't have any concerns about him losing Godwin.
Get some respect on Jules.
Yeah, as long as he has Gronk, I mean, there's going to be plays made. I think Gronk's in for a hell of a day.
I'd probably agree. Yeah. I mean, are they going to key on him though? I mean, you saw today out in the Packers game after the first quarter, Devontae Adams just got double teamed for the entire rest of the game. So it's like, do the Rams just do the same thing? I mean, probably not on Gronk, because Gronk isn't as shifty and as fast. But it's almost like, do they pick a guy to key in on so Brady can't get the ball?
I assume you bring Jalen Ramsey over some to help cover Gronk.
Yeah.
Are we forgetting about Mike Evans?
Well, I was about to say, does Brady go?
Yeah, I thought that too, but I feel like Gronk is a different piece, especially when he's that big. I mean, not that Ramsey is as big as Gronk, but
I mean, I was looking at stats, great stats. ESPN for the podcast. We're locked in over here.
Yeah, we're not sponsored by ESPN.
Ramsey covered Mike Evans 18% of the routes on the regular season matchup in week 3. So they didn't really they had a lot of safety over the top help, but they had Ramsey usually one-on-one with somebody else on the field.
I remember there being a lot of talk about Ramsey was talking about covering Gronk and wanting to cover Gronk and all this stuff. I mean, I think he's had that come up a couple of times. I mean, Jalen Ramsey wants to cover the best player on the field. Yeah. And he usually does a pretty good job of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you got to be scared of Mike Evans when you get to the red zone. It's
so
hard to defend the Bucs in the red zone. You got Fournette, you got Gronk, and you have Mike Evans. I mean, those are 3 probably top 15 red zone threats in the league.
Yeah,
that's hard to defend.
Y'all want to hear the trash Jalen Ramsey was talking this week?
Always.
He said that he doesn't like Gronk's commercials.
They are a little weak.
That's tough.
Well, that's an L. I mean, Gronk's not retired.
Have you come back?
Gronk's just like, I'm getting the bag. What do you want?
Yeah, there's a couple years ago when Ramsey was still in Jacksonville, and he said, "Yeah, I don't think Gronk's that good." Like, just straight up said, like, I don't think Gronk is very good.
That might be
some beef there for sure.
Oddest take. So, kind of moving away from the NFL a little bit. Of your boys. So for those of you that don't know who are listening right now, Robbie and Ryan both attended University of Alabama. They had a basketball game tonight. Obviously, I apologize for the heartbreak that the national championship game caused you guys against Georgia.
Yes, I'm very upset. Please move past it.
But it popped up to watch on YouTube TV the other night, and I almost wanted to throw a controller. But it's all right.
But obviously, it's kind of getting into basketball season now, and Alabama came into the season a pretty highly ranked team and got some good wins. They've fallen out of the top 25. They beat Mizzou 9. I mean, what are your guys' overall thoughts on the Alabama basketball team?
Tonight is what we call a struggle win.
Yeah.
It was double digits. It was 10 points, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, but we didn't. I don't think we took the lead 4 minutes.
Yeah.
And let's not forget that the same Mizzou team beat us 1 or 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, do you want to take this, Rob, or do you want me to have first crack at this and my thoughts?
we're going to say the same thing. We discuss Alabama basketball enough together that we're going to have the exact same opinions on this team and the players associated with it.
Yeah, I think you could ask a lot of analysts or people that watch basketball closely. It was the same story last year. This Alabama team can beat anybody in the country on a given night, and it's no question. They went up to and played in Washington against Gonzaga. That's pretty much a home game from Gonzaga, like 100 miles from their campus, and they won. They beat Houston at home, another great team who beat the absolute crap out of ECU today. It was like 30 points at halftime. It was gross.
The Pirates.
Yeah, go Pirates. But yeah, they lost to Mizzou first time around. This was at home, a little bit of a revenge game. I think Alabama got a lot of help from the refs tonight. Mizzou had 5 free throw attempts. We had 25, I think. Wow. I mean, there was a huge foul discrepancy. So we got in the bonus really early in the second half, which really helped us come back. But we have just been in a little bit of a 3-point shooting slump recently. And when we shoot poorly from 3, this team loses.
Yeah, I think beyond the stats and beyond, I mean, I'm sure there's more stats out there to back up why we've been in this slump, why we've been playing well. It's like a lot of Alabama basketball teams, and like I can't blame it on Avery Johnson anymore as much as I would like to. But I mean, we are soft. I mean, there are a lot of games that you watch us, and like Ryan's talking about, the threes aren't falling, we lose. A lot of that is that they just don't change anything. They don't. I mean, whenever the threes aren't falling, they're like, all right, well, game over. I mean, you just don't. It feels like you're missing that mental toughness from this team sometimes, and that's where they get themselves into trouble. And that's why you're losing games to Missouri or Mississippi State. I mean, on the road in the SEC, which a road game is always tough. Yeah. But those are the ones you got to pull out. I mean, those are teams that if you really are a threat to make a run in the NCAA tournament, you should win those games.
And this team's really young. I mean, you got 5 seniors on the roster, but a lot of the starters and the stars are all like sophomores. And freshmen. So I think there's a lot of maturing to do. We have an absolutely brutal stretch coming up. Baylor comes to town on the 29th. Obviously a little torqued about some of their most recent losses. Then we go to Auburn and then home against Kentucky 3 in a row. Which are top 12 teams right there. So I think we're really going to see what this team is actually made of when in those 3 games. But I don't know. It's I think it's going to be this team goes to Elite 8 or loses round 1 in the tournament. I think it's going to be no in between.
You guys.
I still do want to apologize for the Avery Johnson slander. I still just have flashbacks to us losing to Norfolk State in the first round of the NIT. It still just makes me. Ryan and I were studying for a final. I think we're studying for a test or something.
Yeah. I was very, very irate.
We were like, oh, it's Norfolk State. We won't even watch the game. And we lost.
So, I have this taste for Avery Johnson from Alabama basketball and for Dallas Mavericks basketball as a younger child.
So we're officially an anti-Avery Johnson podcast. Is that what the conclusion just came to?
I don't want to get too deep into that, but
for those of you watching the YouTube version, even though that Ryan is drinking Coke Zero, we are not sponsored by Coke Zero. I just want everyone to be aware of that.
I mean,
I might have to blur that out.
I mean, if they want
to. If y'all want to, hit us up. But I mean, for the Alabama basketball team, do you guys see, is there anybody specifically that you could see being an NBA prospect, somebody that you think could go to the league and actually make a difference?
I mean, I think the most NBA ready prospect you're going to find right now is Quinn Early. But he has so many stretches where he disappears.
Yeah.
And he has all the talent in the world. He's a great basketball player, but he's one of the guys I think you worry about that mental toughness. And, he left Villanova. It's kind of fuzzy why he left Villanova. I think if you're talking about pure talent, it's Quinn Early. Outside of that, some of the big
Davidson is a green prospect. Yeah. I think that's actually probably the highest ranked.
I definitely forgot about JD. But JD is still doing well. I mean, he's still got some offensive work to do for sure.
100%. But I think he came in like a first round pick kind of thing, like just in raw talent, depending on how he would develop this year. But it's we're gonna see. So
Robbie, before the podcast started, I know we were talking about your some of the gambling decisions that you've made. So I kind of want to hear from you recently. You said that you suck at gambling. I want to hear from you recently.
I was actually just going to bring this up for my 2 friends that are Mavs fans. So I had a nice little parlay the other night where I needed our man Luka. We're all Luka stands.
Always.
D-Book and Steph all go over 30. I need 30-point games apiece from each.
Yeah.
It was when the Suns and Mavs were playing.
Okay.
Well, Luka both went for 28.
Absolute agony.
That's
but the reason I want to bring it up, why is Luka afraid to shoot the ball at the end of the game? Like, legitimate question. I'm watching that game, and KP took the last 5 shots of the game. It's like a couple possession game against one of the top teams in the league, and Luka's standing in the corner, not even being involved in the offense. I mean, it just doesn't make any sense to me. But I mean, you guys probably watch more Mavs games than I have, but it just blows my mind that he's that good of a player and seems to just disappear in those moments.
Yeah, especially since he's I think you could argue that Luka's pretty clutch. I mean, I remember a couple years ago or in the bubble against the Clippers, that step back on the logo was ridiculous when he hit that buzzer beater.
I think I might have cried, honestly, if I want to be honest with you.
I started running around the house.
I really hate the Clippers.
Yeah.
It's just a personal, pandemic P. Don't love that man.
I really want Patrick Beverley to die.
Thank God he's not there. Wow.
I know. These are not the official views of Bros in the Brick podcast. But Ryan, you have a hatred for Paul George that I have never seen from a man to another NBA player, and I would like you to elaborate upon this hatred for Paul George.
Does Paul George push P, Ryan? Is Paul George pushing P?
Paul George wouldn't know how to push P if it hit him in the mouth. I mean, he's just not built like that, honestly. But the Mavs have really started playing good basketball as of recently. They're 8-2 in their last 10. They just lost to Phoenix. I think arguable best team in the league right now.
In a game they should have closed and won. I mean, they had a chance to win that game and didn't close out. But
Luka's been battling through some injuries this year. Porzingis has had an absolute resurgence. I mean, he is a all-star / fringe all-star player right now.
Pingus finally started playing like he wasn't afraid to tear his ACL.
Because he was hurt all
I'm not blaming him, and I understand.
No, it's not even that. Is what I'm saying. He said he wasn't, and people said that he wasn't.
No, he was.
And it was very obvious that he was hurt.
Well, because I mean, think about it. If you're a 7'3" man and you have knee issues in both of your knees, I'm not saying that he's got to play tough all the time. I understand. Of course you don't want to blow out your knee, and it's not even at that point. It's not even thinking about your basketball career. It's thinking about the rest of your life. Just walking on legs that are destroyed. I understand it, but I mean, I think he's finally gotten to the point where he's not afraid of it anymore, and I think that's why he's playing so well. It's because he's playing like he's 7'3", as opposed to he's the Nate Robinson size.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I was talking to someone with that. I mean, Knicks, whenever KP was there, I mean, he was legit.
Yeah.
He was the number one option.
Best power forward in the league. You could argue best power forward in the league at that point.
Right. For sure.
On fresh knees, absolutely. Yeah. He was a demon.
Mm-hmm. The unicorn.
But the Mavs play Memphis in their upcoming game.
Memphis is on a tear, dude. I don't understand where that Memphis game came from.
Another take, very similar to the Bengals, which is how the young they are. Memphis makes the finals the next 5 years too.
John Moran is ridiculous.
I remember Murray State came to Tuscaloosa, and we beat them, and I think pretty handily. But Ja had 35, and everyone's who is this John Moran?
Who is this kid? Yeah,
who is that? But he was just unreal, and it continues to be, showing up Zion a little bit.
Well, there was an interview with Draymond the other day. Well, yeah, there was an interview with Draymond the other day where Draymond said a reporter was asking him, he's like, "Do you think that Ja should be in the most improved player category?" And he was like, "Bro, I want to hear him in the most valuable player category." He's like, "Yeah, I don't want to hear MIP talk around Ja because he's been playing so well this season." Like you said, Ryan, it's just a team of young guys who want to work together to be the best they can be. And are they the 4th seed right now? Is that correct? 4th seed, 3rd seed?
They are the 3rd seed. They're behind Phoenix and the Warriors right now.
Yeah, I mean the Warriors have had some tough losses though. Recently, they lost to the Pacers in OT.
Yep.
But I mean, they're still so good. I mean, and when we talk about the NBA, I feel like we have to address the Lakers situation right now.
Westbrook is just killing them.
Some of the shots that literally just go off the top of the backboard. You're like, what are you doing?
You got LeBron James, the greatest player of this generation by far, and then you got Anthony Davis. And you got
that's actually so good.
I don't know what you want LeBron to do, man. At some point,
bro. Did you see that he's 37, and what is his stat line in the last 60 days? 38, 8 and 8.
I mean,
what does he have to do?
On the season, he's 29-8-6, right?
Dude, he's 37.
A block, a steal.
What is his field goal percentage? What is his shooting percentages?
Probably very
average for him. Fine. Yeah, very fine.
He's shooting 51.7% from the field, over career average. Shooting 36.2% from the three, which I think is probably approaching career high. He's never been a premier 3-point shooter. Shooting better from the free throw line. He's shooting 75% from the.
That is actually a lot better. Yeah,
a lot better improved. I think he was in the 60s last year.
Yeah, that's a lot better.
So Ryan, in terms of scores for the Lakers, so I'm guessing that the pick three, the top three scores, is Talon Horton-Tucker the fourth best scorer on the Lakers right now? Because I that would be my guess.
I mean, all joking aside, man, you look at this roster.
That's probably right.
Like, you have 4 players that at one time in their career were top 5 players in the NBA, right?
Oh, if you put this team together in like 2008,
right?
Dude, unreal.
Obviously, Melo's washed, and he had some really good minutes in games for Portland. I think he was a great fit for them up there. He's going ring chasing, coming to the Lakers.
Yeah.
AD has not been what the Lakers have paid for.
Bro, I'm not gonna lie to y'all.
He has just not played up to his potential.
I'm not gonna lie. I completely forgot Carmelo Anthony was on that team. Like
he's actually the fourth leading scorer.
I fully forgot he was on that team.
It goes Melo, Malik Monk, and then Talon Horton-Tucker.
Yeah, but no, Ryan, you're
13 points from a game, which I think is really good. He's on a vet minimum. I think he's probably one of the best signings for the Lakers this year.
Yes.
I mean, Ryan, but you're completely right. I mean, remember that Anthony Davis that played with prime or almost prime, like 1 year out of his prime, DeMarcus Cousins in 2014 against that. Remember that corner three that Anthony Davis had against like the Warriors, bro. Like imagine that Anthony Davis on this Lakers team with LeBron. Like it's just like what did they like? I think that when they signed Anthony Davis, I think that was a good investment. I don't think anybody really had any issues with the Lakers taking on Anthony Davis. I mean, they got a ring out of it. They got a ring in 2020 out of it.
And I think Anthony Davis fits well with LeBron. I just don't think Russell Westbrook does. And I think everyone knew that going into the year. I think it's one of the things like, maybe Frank Vogel will figure something out of Russell Westbrook that no one else has. But did we really think that was going to happen? Like, do we really think Russell Westbrook is going to change who he is as a player just because LeBron? He didn't for KD. I mean, he didn't for who else? He had Paul George. He did for Paul George, but
he didn't do it in Washington.
Yeah, he didn't do it. I mean,
my God, I forgot he was on Washington.
Yeah,
that was his last team. Good Lord.
And it's so funny is like me talking bad about Anthony Davis, right? He's 23-10 on the season. Like he's averaging a double a game.
He's just
hurt.
And
I'm still saying that he's not producing to his full potential
because he's hurt all the time.
His defense this year was terrible. I mean, I think a lot of the Lakers were playing great.
18% from 3.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But dude, you said, Robbie, I agree with you that a lot of the Lakers don't necessarily play great defense, and I think that's probably a lot of people's criticism of LeBron. But I feel like in LeBron's defense, the man's 37, and obviously he's taking incredible care of his body, and he probably feels just as good as he ever has. But if you have to do the entire offensive production load for your team, you're playing. Remember that he is playing professional basketball. Yeah. He's playing probably near 40 minutes a game. And you're expecting him to be, at 37, insanely elite on both sides of the ball. I just think that's unrealistic. You have to give him some help in everything else.
And that's what I don't get about the construction of this team. I feel like at this point, not even that LeBron shouldn't have to. You don't want LeBron putting in full effort.
You don't want it.
You shouldn't.
Nope.
It's I don't get why you construct this team with all of these older guys that aren't going to play defense. You need to get. I think Malik Monk has been playing fairly well.
Malik Monk is fine. Yeah, I think Malik Monk is
not turned out to be the player that people thought he would be out of college.
I mean, for a $1.6 million contract, he's fine. When Westbrook is eating up $44 million.
Wow.
At 33 years old.
And not doing anything with it. Robbie, did you want to take us through some of your hockey talks? Because I know you're like our hockey expert here on the pod.
Yeah, hockey. Yeah. I did want to, before we move on, now you have to lock in your NBA Finals predictions and champion right now.
Ooh.
And we're going to hold you to it.
Wow.
Right now, you have to lock it in.
on the first pod.
Lock it in. And that way we can go back and we can talk about how bad all of our predictions
all of our takes
mine are going to be great, but I don't know how y'all's are going to go.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Ryan, you wanna lead us off?
Lead us off. Wow. Looking at the Eastern Conference, there are some teams that are absolutely exceeding expectations. No one saw the Bulls being the second seed halfway through the season at this point. I mean, the DeMar DeRozan
he's so good. I have always defended DeMar.
As a Mavs fan, I wanted to sign DeRozan, but I way cheaper than what he signed on the Bulls. I thought when they signed him, I thought they were overpaying. Immediately shut me up. I mean, that Bulls team has meshed super well. Mm-hmm. I don't think they get to the conference finals. I think they run into a better team. The Bucs are sitting there quietly at 30-19, a game back of the first seed Nets. Again, the Nets, can they stay healthy? I mean, can that team stick together and get through an 82-game season plus 4 playoff series? I think the East is going to be really interesting to watch. I think I see the Bucs coming out of the East, winning another 7-game series against the Nets in the Eastern Conference Finals. Mm-hmm. And then going to the West, I don't think it's Memphis's year yet. I think they're right there. I think they could. I don't think they will. Mm-hmm. I think the Warriors make the Western Conference Finals against the Suns. The Suns lose again. Chris Paul retires. So I see Warriors Bucks. Warriors Bucks finals.
My prediction is honestly pretty similar. I was actually probably going to say, well, in my head, right? I don't think. I think a lot of people think this too, but I never saw the Warriors dynasty ever being really over yet, because I mean, the Curry's not super old, Clay's not super old. I mean, Draymond isn't super old. Draymond just can't really score the ball anymore, but that doesn't really matter because they got other guys who
good.
Yeah, I mean, no, dude, in that 2015, Draymond had 3 ball. Draymond could shoot in 2015.
There's a time where Draymond would knock down some big time top of the key 3-pointer, and you're like, all right, like Draymond showing up.
But my thing is, so I think a lot of it depends on Kyrie Irving. I think a lot of it depends on what the rules are come playoff times in terms of vaccinated and unvaccinated.
That's what I was going to say. Like, can the Nets win a 7-game series where Kyrie can't play at least 4 of the games?
If it comes down to that, I think that the same thing happens last year where it's Giannis versus KD in Game 7, basically. And then I agree with Ryan. I think it's going to, if Kyrie is in another predicament where he can't play, I think it's going to be Warriors Bucks. But if Kyrie can play all 7 games, I think it's going to be Warriors Nets.
If you're the Nets, do you start tanking so that Kyrie can play more games, hopefully? Because he can't play in New York. So do you hope that you can get, 4 games on the road that Kyrie can play, and then you can win those 4 games?
That's a good question. That's a really good question.
No, you don't.
I mean, you don't do that, but like,
but, you can think about it. We're just talking about Draymond real quick. I just want to point out the man is averaging 7-7-7.
I'm saying this year he can't score. But I'm saying in years past.
That changed my mind because that's lucky right there. 3 triple sevens. So I think the Warriors are going to win it all now, right?
That's the devil in the details right there, right?
Yeah,
triple sevens. I think it's the Warriors' year again.
Yeah. I agree. I actually fully agree. Robbie, did you have a prediction?
I really think it's going to be Bucs Suns again. I think we're going to get a run back. I think the Suns win. I think Chris Paul finally gets one.
Oh, you think Chris Paul locks it in?
I think Chris Paul finally gets one, man.
Finally gets a grip on an NBA championship.
Yep.
Okay, so we got our predictions locked in real quick before the next segment changes. As a Mavs homer, do the Mavs win a ship with KP and Luka?
Ooh. Well, okay.
Suns will age out, right? Memphis is on the rise. Warriors probably have another good 2-3 years of prime left. Those are the best teams I see in the Luka and KP experiment. I don't know, contract wise. I know Luka just signed an extension.
Yeah, that's what I was just about to say. It's because
I don't think the Jazz ever win. I think they're mid to very good. They're mid to very good, right? But they're not gonna win a ship.
Yeah, they're not a
Gobert, Donovan Mitchell. I don't think that group is good enough.
I think you got 3 or 4 teams in the Western Conference that are like a piece or 2 away from a championship. You got the Mavs, you got the Nuggets, you got the Jazz.
Can we talk about Jokic? Dude, why is he going under the radar this season?
I guess the question becomes, what do you think of the Nuggets whenever Jamal Murray comes back?
I think they're like they're not. I don't think they're contenders. I think they're scary in the first early round of the playoffs. But I don't think. But like the numbers Jokic is putting up are just as good as last year, and like he just doesn't seem to come up in conversation again. I mean, I get it because his team isn't performing as well. But you also like you just said, Jamal Murray's out, and like the team is suffering off injuries. But the production that Jokic is putting up is ridiculous.
just want to point this out again. I just pulled up the Nuggets to see, what the rest of players
this is what you're listening to this podcast going for, people, is the statistical analysis.
Coming out from your
boys.
It's just phenomenal. You pull up the Denver Nuggets stats for this year, right? And on ESPN's website, we're not sponsored by ESPN, they have the team leaders in points, rebounds, assists, steals, and blocks into the 5 main categories. Joker's leading in all of them as a center.
That's actually nuts.
He's 26, 14, 7.5, a steal and a half a game and a block.
That's like, how is this man not just like, how are people not saying this man is the MVP? No questions. I don't understand. Yeah. Isn't he shooting ridiculous percentages too?
I would assume so. I bet he's shooting at a high 50%. Yeah, 57% from the field, 37% from 3.
Dude, I don't understand why it's even why he's not even thought about right now. I don't understand.
I think by all high tier basketball fans he is, but he doesn't have flashy game. You're thinking he's not talked about on ESPN because
that's a good point.
He plays for the Nuggets, who are a good team, not a super exciting team. Mm-hmm. They're not Steph Curry, they're not LeBron James, they're not players that dominate the news cycle.
Yeah.
Joker is putting together a phenomenal back-to-back season. Definitely an MVP candidate again.
Yeah.
He just doesn't drive clicks. He's not super exciting, but he's super good.
Yeah. I think part of it too is he had that play where he decked one of the I can't remember which Morris brother, but he decked one of them shot. And he had some other weird stuff going on and off the court that might have hurt him a little bit too. With his brothers are always doing some weird shit.
Yeah, they're like Serbian mafia. It's like
yeah. They were like, and I did the video of them in the Miami nightclub playing the Serbian national anthem. This is terrible. Yeah, I mean, it is awesome. But I definitely think taking cheap shots. I think LeBron gets away with something, but stuff like that definitely.
Any one of the Morris brothers deserves it. I don't think it's a cheap shot. They've gotten away with so much stuff in the league.
I agree.
And you talk about playing the Serbian anthem in a bar. This is coming from a guy who's leading the NBA in efficiency on the season. As a center.
His advanced stats are like he leads in every single one across the league. It's actually ridiculous. So Robbie, I wanted to steer back to your parlays and stuff. I wanted to hear about your hockey stuff.
Yeah. So I think it's important to stipulate why I'm the hockey expert on this podcast, and that is because I once hit 2 out of 3 legs in a parlay, and that is the entire reason that I'm the hockey expert here. I was Florida Panthers went away from winning $270.
Oh, okay.
And so therefore,
the Panthers lost 5-1. Correct.
They lost 5-1 to the Calgary Flames.
That is
we are an anti-Calgary Flames podcast. Keep that in mind going forward.
These are not the official views of Bros in the Berg podcast.
But also being from North Carolina, we got the Canes. That's exciting. I remember when I was younger and the Canes won the Stanley Cup. That was pretty cool. I don't think anyone in North Carolina really knew what hockey was. But that's a major sport. That's pretty cool. Mm-hmm. Also, fun fact, I don't know if people know this, but the Canes are the only North Carolina professional sports team to not play in Charlotte. They play in Raleigh, North Carolina.
Okay. That actually is interesting.
I did not know that, even as a sports aficionado.
Their stadium is right next to NC State's football stadium. They share a parking lot, PNC Arena. It's also the NC State basketball team plays in the same arena that the Hurricanes do.
Oh, wow.
So, there you go. Fun North Carolina sports knowledge there for you.
Look, this man's locked into this podcast. That's unbelievable.
I am here.
God, you came prepared.
Listeners are lucky to be listeing to this man.
Look at that.
Please don't take my gambling advice. I literally just had a parlay where not a single leg hit. So please, if I ever
life saving lost.
Yeah, book it with Trent on TikTok. Think of me as similar to him. Whatever I bet, you should definitely bet the opposite.
Yeah, this is not financial advice. Don't take anything we say seriously.
With that being said, I want to get your takes on the 2 games tomorrow, the football games tomorrow.
Yeah.
And any other parlays, player props, anything you see on the horizon coming up. I think our listeners would love to hear some terrible takes.
I think.
I think it's first important to put out there that I have a future on the Buffalo Bills to win the Super Bowl.
What were those odds locked in at?
I think it was plus 600.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. We locked that in after. I had a couple of too many beers and was watching them beat the piss out of the Patriots and decided that I needed to bet.
This is a good idea. Yeah.
But that's where that one came from. Nice. In terms of other parlays, the Packers killed my spread parlay tonight. I got the Bengals right. I felt all week the Bengals were going to win, so we nailed that one. Definitely didn't think the Packers were going to lose.
Nope.
Definitely thought they were going to cover.
I don't think anyone.
So
I
that's
said,
where
I said verbatim last night, Packers cover like a blanket, and God,
yeah,
was I
you
wrong.
did say, yeah.
We were literally watching the game earlier, Ryan, and you're like, yeah, I saw a bunch of people saying that you should bet like the Niners to cover, and that's so dumb. And then sure enough, they won.
They do, yeah.
The Niners money line.
This is not betting advice here.
I mean, I might be eating my words because I'm going to say the same thing. I think the Chiefs cover like a blanket.
There it is.
1.5. Are you kidding? Like I take that all day. And again, I might eat my words like you, but I think the Chiefs cover like a blanket.
Speaking of parlays, how's Arizona State doing against Stanford? I don't have a problem.
That was random. That was what kind of parlay are you on?
Parlay I have right now because the Packers. Oh, it's a 4-point game. Let's go.
Okay.
Yeah, I bet for USC, UCLA, and Arizona State to win today.
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens there. But anyways, in terms of tomorrow, I think you got both the Bucs and the Chiefs covering.
Which one are you more confident?
My personal choice.
Which one are you more confident on between the two?
Probably the Chiefs.
Okay.
I'd say the Bucs.
I mean, it's just the Chiefs. It's one. Yeah, the Bucs are 2.5 right now.
I think Bills are better than the Rams.
I think that's fair, but I think
it's pretty close to me.
I think that the Bucs are worse than the Chiefs.
Dude, these are all these are really close. They're all so close.
The Chiefs are extremely healthy right now, which I think will be a huge benefit for them going forward. Also, real quick, I wanted to ask, since both first seeds lost today, they had an extra week of rest. Does that something you have to think about? You're at a 17-week regular season. You're ready for the bye, but having an extra week like that kind of might throw players off. I don't know. I feel like that's something worth looking at.
Definitely.
So I listened to an interview with LaFleur last week during the bye week, and he was asked about that. I was like, how do you balance rust versus rest? I feel like that's kind of the balance we got to figure out. And he said, oh no, it's just kind of like a gut feeling type thing. It's like, no, you got to have a plan, man. And I think he showed up tonight. So Mike McCarthy, he would have had a plan for sure. 100% would have had a plan.
You're going to
numbers, analytics, the whole 9 yards.
You're going to make me start drinking on the podcast.
And I think it is a tough balance. I think you saw it a lot too whenever there were 2 bye weeks. That there's a lot of times where one of those top 2 seeds got upset by someone. You're like, how in the world did that team win?
Yeah,
sure.
Yeah.
And I think a big part that played in it were the teams they were playing. The Niners were on an absolute tear in the back half of the season, and the Bengals are just a young, talented team against a not great 1 seed, right? Mm-hmm. So, I think there were a lot of things at play, but I think that what you mentioned, the rest versus rest, is something that might be looked at after the season.
And the thing is, I think it's one of those things that there's not a right answer, and it probably depends on your team. It probably depends on. It probably depends on how the weather is. You really probably don't want, if you're the Packers, you don't want to be practicing every day when it's 12 degrees outside. I mean, that's just asking for all kinds of things to go wrong, to practice that every single day. I mean, I'm sure they have their practice facility or whatever else, but still, there's probably no right answer. And it's probably just comes down to being as prepared as you can be and going forward from that.
So, Ryan, you said about the Chiefs being healthy. I mean, and we saw how important that was in terms of the Chiefs is because, we saw it in the last year's Super Bowl with the Chiefs and the Bucs. I mean, remember it was COVID. I mean, obviously not, this wasn't injury, we know as in terms of modern football stuff, this was COVID related stuff. But they had their third string left tackle in. And obviously that was a huge reason they lost because they had 3 of their starting O-line guys out. And so it was an insane stat. It was Mahomes had to rush for 500 yards behind the line of scrimmage.
Yeah,
it was ridiculous.
That's crazy.
Yeah, and so obviously health is such a big part of, especially the Chiefs O-line. And as we know, the Chiefs O-line is so much more important than people give it credit for. Obviously you got the flashy guys like Tyreek and Kelsey and stuff, and Mahomes obviously. But it's who are the people that make sure those guys get open and make sure that quarterback's protected, every single play. So
Tyreek's fast, but he still has to get open.
Yeah, exactly.
He gets open probably faster than anyone else in the league, just how fast he is. But he still needs time to get open.
Yeah, and we saw how important that was. When it comes to the biggest game of the year and one of the best front 7, and I think it was their entire starting lineup returned, and I don't think that's ever happened off of a Super Bowl team. It's like 22 guys all returned. And so it's like, I mean, the Chiefs, I mean, I think they got to be semi-scared if they have the thought of going up against Tampa again. And obviously they're like, oh, they'll be confident. They'll be like, oh, we got our guys back. We're super healthy and stuff. But I mean, again, like we keep saying, I mean, it doesn't matter how old Tom Brady gets. He's still the greatest quarterback of all time.
I do think that Mahomes' struggles this year for the Chiefs was a giant blessing in disguise.
Yeah.
That defense came alive. I mean, the Chiefs have a defense now. They really hadn't had a defense the entire time Mahomes had been starting. But I mean, that defense had to come in and win them multiple games this year. Absolutely. And I think that's going to pay big time going forward against some of these teams that have a lot of offensive firepower. I mean, so their path to the Super Bowl night. They got to beat the Bills. They got to beat the Bengals. I mean, you're talking about 2 other top 10 quarterbacks in the league you got to get through to get to a Super Bowl. I mean, you got to make plays against them. And I think the Chiefs have that defense now to be able to do that.
Yeah, I mean, did you see the memes early in the season with like Tyrann Mathieu? It was like it was just a fade, and like there was nobody back there, and he just like had his hands on his head. He was like, "What are y'all doing?" It was so funny.
Like the LeBron JR meme.
What
are you doing?
Yeah. Not to go down that rabbit hole, but Tyrann Mathieu was one of those guys that had absolutely revitalized his career. I mean, he had a lot of those issues early as a rookie. I believe wasn't it drug issues?
I couldn't tell you.
But he was almost out of football to that point, and he's been a great addition to this Chiefs.
Did you have any more thoughts in terms of just sports around the world?
The Olympics are coming up soon. That's exciting.
True, yeah, that's very true.
We gotta be talking about the Olympics here soon for sure.
I mean, I would love to. What are y'all's favorite Winter Olympics events?
Any type of snowboarding or skiing, you're gonna have me watching. Can't get enough.
When Apollo Ono was about speed skating, dude, that was so fun to watch. Dude.
Lots of fun.
Speed skating super fun.
Do y'all watch the X Games at all? When are they going to bring snowmobiles to the
That would be sick. That would actually be sick.
The guys on the snowmobiles doing flips off the snowmobiles is so cool. I love the X Games.
That would actually be.
The X Games are a lot of fun, and they don't obviously get a lot of international attention, but there's still a lot of fun to watch. Yeah, I'm right with you on the speed skating. That was so much fun with Apollo Ono. Shaun White on the half pipe was amazing, and these are just very American takes. Right? Lindsey Vonn on Alpine. I mean, those were a lot of fun to watch. Mm-hmm. On next week's podcast, we're definitely going to have our better extraordinaire come out with some interesting lines to see, over under on medal wins for the United States.
That would actually be really fun to talk
about. Some statistics to see, how the U.S. will fare in the Winter Olympics compared to the summer.
We will definitely have a segment on Super Bowl prop bets. I mean, there's no better time to bet on prop bets.
Bet on it. Throw out all your money.
We will definitely deep dive into that. We can't talk about baseball right now because they're in a lockout. So Manfred will come shut down this podcast that currently has 0 listeners because we've never posted an episode. So if we start talking about the players, he will come shut us down. So we'll stay away from baseball for the time being.
Yeah, that's probably fair.
Keep the wrath of the commissioner away.
Yeah, and I wanted to bring up something non-sports related real quick. So obviously, as you guys know, the MCU is a massive thing, and we're all pretty big fans of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So a couple of days ago, I don't know if you guys saw, they dropped their new series that they're doing on Disney Plus. They dropped the Moon Knight trailer. Yeah. And have you guys both seen it?
Oh yeah,
I have. I forgot what I was watching when I saw that, but yeah,
I was in bed about to go to bed because I had to get up for work the next day, and naturally I saw the trailer pop up. I watched it, and then I went down like an hour rabbit hole on YouTube learning about Moon Knight. Yeah. So we're ready. We're ready to rock and roll. But
so I completely share your thoughts, Robbie, because I'm not super familiar with the character. I mean, what I gathered from the trailer is that essentially he can't tell the difference between his dreams and reality. And so I'm assuming that's where his powers come from. Is it they turn into reality or something like that?
So in the comics, from what I read, is that he has some type of dissociative personality disorder. Okay. So he takes multiple personalities. Okay. And so that's something that he deals with a lot through the comics. And he gets his powers from the Egyptian god of the moon. Okay. But there's some question if he actually got powers from him or if it's all in his head that he just does these things because he's a law of his mind and he doesn't actually have these powers. So I don't know if they're going to dive into that. I mean, I feel like the MCU doesn't get as dark as it sounded like this character can get. Yeah. But I'm excited for it. And they got, what's the actor's name? He's incredible. I can't think of his name off the top of my head.
Ooh, I do not. I'm very bad at the actor names. Terrible.
Ryan, you're our researcher. You got to research.
I apparently need to get a grip on that.
Oscar Isaac.
There it is.
There we go. So in terms of the MCU Disney Plus series that they've put out, so what is it so far? It's been WandaVision, Loki, Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and Hawkeye. So in terms of, rank them 1 to 4. What are your guys' thoughts on the favorite Disney Plus series from Marvel?
I think you got to go with the Scarlet Witch. What was her name? What was the name of that one? WandaVision. Thank you. I think you got to go that one number 1. Obviously, it was the first one that came out.
Yeah.
Marvel did a great job those first 2 episodes. Everyone was like, "What is going on?"
Yeah.
And any Marvel fans and anything apart from the casual Marvel person knows that WandaVision and the Scarlet Witch is an incredibly powerful hero in the MCU. Yep. So, just seeing that, and then the evolution or the creation of a new superhero. I forget it was the African American woman that we saw for a little bit. I forget.
Monica Rambeau.
Yep. Yeah. So we see the creation of her, which is really cool. And then that she's going to be in the Doctor Strange movie with that's going to be the first MCU horror movie. So I think that's just good. I think that's really cool. But I would rank that number 1. I would probably rank Hawkeye last, to be honest with you. I like the show. I like the character. I think seeing the human Avenger, right, just get beaten up a lot, and he's icing himself with all these frozen vegetables. It's really funny.
I mean,
that was the best part of the show, is them showing him getting back from injury. Because I think that's something people always talk about. Is like, well, how are Hawkeye and Black Widow recovering from this?
They're not.
They're not. They have to go home and put frozen veggies on their wounds. And stuff,
I loved the whole thing about him having to get a hearing aid, and they showed glimpses of the explosions. I was like, that is thank you. That actually makes sense. That he would have to do that. I was like, I'm so glad that they included that detail. And Ryan, I mean, I would probably put WandaVision for, I really because I was, when I saw the first 2 episodes, I was like, they're obviously doing something, or they have an angle that they're going for, and so I was they weren't I wouldn't necessarily call them good. I guess they were good in terms of the development, but the first 2 episodes I was very invested, because I was like, they're obviously going somewhere with this. So I would probably agree with WandaVision being first overall, and then I wouldn't have Hawkeye last. I would probably have, based on Robbie's reaction, I think he would probably say, would you also say Falcon and the Winter Soldier last?
I was gonna say I would have the other 3, WandaVision, Loki, and Hawkeye, come on their own tier. And not that the Falcon and the Winter Soldier was bad, I just didn't think it was as good as the others.
Yeah.
And in terms of those 3, my favorite is probably going to shift. I think I really liked Hawkeye, and I think recency bias probably puts it higher. I haven't watched WandaVision in a while.
Yeah.
But I think all of those 3, for me, are a tier above Falcon and the Winter Soldier, which still was a great show, just not on the same level to me as the other ones were.
I'd probably agree with that.
WandaVision, Loki, Falcon, Winter Soldier, and then Hawkeye is probably what I would do.
Yeah, and I think Robbie and I would flip the last 2. And I will say, though, I mean, because I loved all the shows, like Robbie said, and it's not necessarily I think that any of them are bad, but I will say that even though I think Falcon and Winter Soldier is probably the least good out of them, I think that Falcon and Winter Soldier had the best shot of any of the shows, because it was in the 4th episode, and it was
You've talked about this before.
Spoiler alert, wee woo.
Yeah, spoiler. Yeah. We're not sponsored by Disney, by the way. Or Marvel.
Man, we're hooking the mouse up tonight. Marvel?
Yeah. So, like Ryan said, I've talked about this before because I love the shot so much, but it was John Walker, when he, his best friend dies to one of the super soldiers, and he goes crazy, and he beats the hell out of one of them, and then they have the shot of Captain America's shield with blood dripping off of it, and then they cut the episode. I was like, that is so good. That, because it's not just obviously he went crazy, but it was the whole persona of Captain America basically right there was he almost destroyed it because of what he did.
And I really enjoyed the Bucky redemption arc too.
Yeah.
Number 1 reason that I have that not last, personally, just because I love that character so much.
Yeah. That was hard. That whole angle about him building that relationship with that man because he killed his son was heartbreaking. And because the whole because it was super psychological too, and I'm hoping that they kind of go, because it was kind of dark, so I'm hoping they kind of explore that with the Moon Knight stuff, but they explored it in terms of Bucky and his flashbacks, because it was dark, a lot of the stuff that because he knows he did it, and obviously he didn't have control over himself, but he was still it was almost like he was a passenger in the moments of when he was doing this stuff. So he was conscious, but obviously he couldn't control himself. I thought that was incredibly interesting how they went into that whole thing.
Absolutely.
Marvel's so good at that kind of stuff, and I know, like you said, Ryan, the next movie they got is the Doctor Strange movie, and then I mean, there's like the She-Hulk series, and then they're gonna do other stuff. So, I mean, there's a lot of new characters.
Yeah, it's very cool to see what they've done. Starting with the whole Iron Man and just how they've woven this where they have. And what's amazing about it is they have so much source material. Yeah, I mean, I can't think of another franchise that has this amount of source material.
Yeah.
Right. So they're going to be pumping out movies and beating this dead horse till it stops spitting out money, essentially. So, I mean, I hope they don't lose, some of the quality that we've come to know with some of the Marvel productions. I think that is something to like with the Eternals. That movie was not good.
Yeah.
Oh, right? I don't think it was bad.
You really?
It was it didn't feel like a Marvel movie. It was very, very different. And I think that was part of it. It was hard to keep up with because there was a lot they were trying to do. The shot of that, like, again, spoiler, like wee woo. But when they have the last shot of the big dude coming in to like take them away because they stopped the other one from emerging.
Yeah,
that shot was sick.
There was some good. Yeah, there's good direction.
That was really cool. Like just the way they kind of captured his scale of like you're standing on the ground looking up at this giant space monster coming down.
Yep.
Yeah.
I thought that was pretty cool. So.
I agree in terms of like a lot of the direction was fine, and obviously a lot of the visual effects and stuff were very cool. But I think Ryan and I's problem with it specifically was, I had a problem with some of the writing, and I had a problem with because obviously Marvel's going in the direction of that Kang is the next big bad. Kang is the next Thanos, right? Like that is what they're kind of setting up everything to be.
Right? They said that they wouldn't do any more like multi-phase villains though. Like they're not gonna have a Thanos where they set him up for however many phases. Like
okay, so yeah. So theoretically, though, if we're thinking about it like it was the past, they're setting up like Kang as the next guy, right? But I'm not saying that it's like solidified. But the thing that they introduced in the Eternals, it was just in terms of like where it was placed didn't make any sense to me because it's such a massive cosmic threat that it's like it doesn't make sense why you would put it with like where it was.
They have a new Captain Marvel movie coming out fairly soon, so except I feel like she's going to be the cosmic. I think you have the new Thor movie coming out fairly soon too.
True.
So maybe they'll tie in there.
Maybe.
Like I wouldn't be surprised to see them pop up in maybe the next Thor movie or something like that.
Yeah.
Let's also give Eternal some credit that was followed up by Spider-Man. I mean, comparing it to that movie is tough because I mean that was
very much agreed. But also that Spider-Man movie was probably the most hyped movie
ever
behind Endgame and Infinity War,
but it lived up to it. I mean,
I know. That's what's so amazing about it.
Mm-hmm. I agree with that. I mean, and I was saying like in terms of the Eternals writing, I remember coming out of the movie and saying this directly to Ryan. I was like, why the hell did Icarus? They did a thing. So obviously Icarus revealed himself as the bad guy, right? They did. Yep. They did the flashback before he revealed that he was a bad guy. Which made no sense to me because it would have been so much more impactful if he had revealed that he turned on them and then they went into the backstory of what happened. Why did you take away that shock factor to like it was not, I guess not, the writing isn't in the right word. It was where scenes were placed. It was like
and they wanted to do the weird like timelines where they're kind of jumping all over the place.
Yeah, it was very
it was too much, like too many flashbacks, too much going on. I could see that.
Yeah. They're really trying to, I think, clue the audience in because, like, you had no idea who these people were. Like, unless you were a very serious Marvel fan, you didn't know who these people were. Like, you had heard of Thor, you had heard of Iron Man. Obviously, everyone knew Spider-Man, right? Yeah. But I guess they wanted, like, especially like what you said about Icarus being the bad guy. They were like, let's tell the audience this, and then they can watch how this unfolds, knowing that this man is the bad guy. I think that was the angle they were going for. I agree. I didn't like it as much as how much they were flipping around. I think it was a really cool thing where they come to Earth and you see how all these events in history are affected by them.
Yeah,
I think being able to play that actual like historical fiction is a really cool idea.
I wish they would almost have just done their whole historical fiction like in the beginning to set up their characters and use those flashbacks to like those periods in history to set up the characters versus like doing it at random times throughout the movie.
That's a fair point.
then again, I'm not a screenwriter, but to me, that was how I would have thought about doing it. Because I agree with you. I think the historical fiction stuff was cool, and see them pop up in these major historical events was cool. But
and I thought and I thought the one character who I forgot like all their names, but I thought the one character who like could control everybody's mind, I thought that was a fast Druid. I thought he was Ryan's pimped
out. So much reflection. That's just not going to work on the
podcast. Is that who just came on our screen right there?
These are the blue screen glasses Connor got me for Christmas. I have been wearing them. I have absolutely no idea if these are just like a placebo or not, but here we are.
Yeah. So I thought Druid was actually fascinating in terms of because he's very conflicted in terms of like what, because he's like, I have the ability to stop these horrid things from happening, and you won't let me. And he's like, you can tell he acts like all cocky and stuff, but based on his actions, he's legitimately good, because he's saying
the first like hour of the movie, you probably would have guessed he would have been the bad.
Yeah. That's what I mean.
The way he acted and the way he kind of resented.
Yeah.
What was the head lady's name?
Dude, that's what I mean. I just can't remember their names. Oh my god, I don't know. I can't remember her name. I remembered it for a second. But yeah, exactly. That's what I was saying. So we're about over an hour, boys. So we probably should wrap up soon. But I wanted to leave off with two smaller topics. So first of all, hot take. What is your favorite chip of all time?
What's the temperature outside?
That's how you know that Robbie and I are fat. That we're asking the actual ambient temperaure to determine what chip I'm potentially in the mood for.
Also important, which side of the Mississippi am I on?
Oh Lord,
that's also
it's an excellent question.
For our English viewers, crisps. If you guys didn't understand chips.
We were developing an international.
Yeah, we got a massive.
Already going overseas.
That's phenomenal.
Yeah. So I'm gonna hit you with a hot take here. Here, my favorite chip of all time is the Fritos Honey Barbecue Twists.
I gotta go.
Dude, they're so good. What do you mean? I mean, in terms of versatility, it's not up there. But
what do you mean? First of all, what are you dipping those in? You can't dip those in.
I'm not saying I need to dip them. Why do I need to dip my chips in anything?
Part of being a versatile chip, you got to be able to
do a specific chip that can't be versatile in any way.
What do you dip like Lay's barbecue in, or Doritos?
Doritos you put in a sandwich. Doritos are like Doritos are easier, obviously.
Yeah.
And that transitions nicely into me. Baked barbecue Lays, phenomenal.
I agree
tier. They really are great for any situation, any party. You're always going to have people that love barbecue Lays.
Ruffles, cheddar, and sour cream.
Oh my god, get out, leave. I
can't do sour cream and onion.
Yeah, sour cream makes me want to vomit.
Yeah, unfortunately, I know that's a cult favorite, but
dude, the amount of people that like sour cream, like sour cream chips, makes me want to die. Like, I don't. Yeah. Why? Why is that so popular?
You know my favorite dip to make for some chips.
If you say sour, if you say sour,
helping with the competition to bring this question up, but we'll let that.
Yeah.
If you can get these Lipton soup packets, but they also double as dips. And so you take it and you put it in sour cream, you mix it up, and it makes French onion dip.
Wow,
that
made me.
It's pretty bad. Not gonna lie.
Wow, that made me ill. All right, and I think so. The last thing, obviously, Robbie, you proposed this. The last thing we're gonna do is the song of the week. So each week here on the podcast, we're gonna do a song of the week, and I mean, sometimes we're gonna be in our feels. Sometimes we're gonna get lit. I mean, it just depends on our mood for the week. So, I mean, boys, do you have a proposal for song of the week this week?
I guess the song technically came out last Friday, I think.
Okay.
But Kanye's new song with The Game, Easy. Mm-hmm. The implication that Kanye was saved from a car wreck. So obviously, backstory, Kanye got in a really bad car wreck a long time ago. I mean, it was a long time ago, but they weren't sure that Kanye was going to survive the car wreck. He ended up getting a bunch of his mouth stitched up, and that's when he recorded Through the Wire. That song, classic song. He actually did have his mouth wired shut from this car accident. So when he's rapping through the wire, he's legitimately rapping through a wire. Yeah. But in this new song, Kanye's talking about that God saved him from this car wreck to beat Pete Davidson's ass. Pete Davidson was 7 years old when Kanye was in this car wreck. So the implication that Kanye was saved from a car wreck to beat 7-year-old Pete Davidson's ass, to me, is genius by Kanye. I mean, that's hysterical.
A lot to unpack there. And there's a reason that Kanye is, well,
he's yay now.
Not all there, right?
Yeah, yay.
Yeah. Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to offend him if he's listening. That's on.
Kanye.
Yeah, Kanye come on, right? God,
I think it's a great nomination, honestly. Yeah. I mean, I was ill prepared for that segment, so I'm glad Robbie brought something to the table. But I did want to bring in a segment of mine of an interesting fact, and today I learned. I think that's very important.
We love learning on this podcast.
Will I have to censor this?
No. This is very family friendly. I'm insulted that you would ask such a thing. I learned today that China owns every single panda that you see in a zoo. They rent them out to other countries' zoos for around $1 million to $2 million per panda per year.
Wow, that's a lot of money. I mean, it kind of makes sense.
I feel like pandas are a good investment. Think about how quickly you make back that $2 million in selling like panda dolls in like zoo gift shops.
Yeah, but you can't, and like if the pandas reproduce, which is very rare, pandas like hardly ever like reproduce in captivity. They own the rights to those pandas too.
Interesting.
Yeah. I mean, pandas are like us. We don't reproduce because you get no women.
Ayo.
That's how you're ending this.
That's how we're gonna wrap it up. Thank you for listening. We don't talk to women. Love you, babe.
I might have to cut that.
No, you definitely don't have to cut that. To all the audience listening out there, hi, my name's Ryan. I'm 5'9", and I never learned how to read. But I wanted to let you know that I've gotten more notifications on LinkedIn than any dating app that I've downloaded this week. So take that as you may. Hope everyone is having a great day, evening, and morning if they're listening to this podcast.
I know we're already going to have 1,000 listeners by tomorrow. So
of course, this is going to get
viral. Sunday to everyone. Happy divisional round Sunday to all of you. So
for the bros in the Berg, this is Ryan Doyle saying so long, good night, good morning, and have a great rest of your day.
Please gamble responsibly.
See y'all.